7:21 on the Dave Elliott Show, Monday morning, the 12th of August. Thank you for joining us today. And I want to also say thanks for joining us for our good friend Bob Weiner, who is today in Virginia Beach. Hi, Bob.
Hey, Dave. Good morning, everybody.
Not a very long ride for you from D.C., but you were in the East Room on Friday when the president gave his press conference.
That's right. In fact, we turned around because of the op-eds that I have the privilege to do since I left the White House staff, and I do op-eds, commentaries in newspapers across the country. I'm cleared in, and I love talking with you, Dave, on some of these issues. But this was important enough. It was his first news conference in months, and it was before he was going to leave, and we knew he was going to make a point about Snowden and security versus freedom. So I wanted to be there.
Well, he's taken a lot of heat now from his critics over what he had to say about Snowden and about Putin. And I'm curious to know what your reaction was to what his comments were and your reaction to what the critics are saying.
Well, it was interesting, Dave. I made a point of talking to the folks around. I like to get the intel when I'm there, and I talked to Mark Knoller and
from
Chuck
CBS,
Todd,
right?
Mark Knoller from CBS, Chuck Todd from NBC, right before and I said, first question out of the box ought to be, would you even be here if it wasn't for Snowden? So how can you call the guy a traitor?
Yeah.
And he's caused this. And Chuck said to me, you're right, that's really how we have to go in the first question. And that was, Chuck was asked the second question, and that's exactly what he asked. He said that are reforms needed because of Snowden, and is he a whistleblower or a patriot? And the play was that the president said he's not a patriot, but the way they played it in the media aftermath was not the way the president said it. He was very pensive. He was almost inferring it could be true that he was helpful, and he was slow in his answer. It wasn't one of these, boom, the guy's a traitor, like some of the Republican right-wing zealots are trying to say. And the president came out with all these reforms about we have to have we have to have a libertarian, a civil liberties person in the FISA courts and in the oversight, making the changes. And then the president said that we're not listening to these calls. Well, he missed the point. I talked with Rick Dunham, who is Houston Chronicle and a White House pool, really respected in the national media, and Mark Knoller again afterwards, and I said, the president missed the point. It's not a matter of listening to the calls and the content. It's a matter of getting the list of who everybody's talking to.
Those three hops, those famous three hops.
And Rick said to me, you're absolutely right. It's like the reporter's sources. Not only the reporter's sources, but all your friends and my friends, Dave.
Right.
And they have everybody. All of our phone calls, all of our emails, all of our web searches. That's outrageous.
So can you help me understand this?
So that's what the president has missed, and that was the feedback across the board. And when I talked to people afterwards after the news conference, the president tried to make a lot of points, as you said, about the Olympics and Putin, and not boycotting the Olympics, which I really agree with on his point about the, I like to run, and the athletes having trained for that, and to take that from them, and healthcare, stopping people from, that's what the Republicans want to do, is stop people from getting their healthcare benefits. They have no alternative. He made all those points, but it got lost in the fact that this is America and you're really spying on us, and that is what came out of that news conference, whether the president liked it or not.
Well, I love the sort of dichotomy of the two stories. One is that in many media outlets, Edward Snowden is a traitor. Although by him saying he's not a patriot, he didn't say he was a traitor. He just said he wasn't a patriot.
That's right.
He's somewhere in the middle. We haven't quite figured it out yet.
And it was a very pensive, it was very thoughtful response because the majority of the American people think that Snowden's a whistleblower, and then the president comes out with these 4 reforms of the NSA programs. Would never have happened without Snowden.
Correct.
And to say Snowden was did it wrong and should have gone through the process. Oh yeah, I want to see how quickly. We all said to ourselves, as the president said, we would have landed at the same place if he went through the process. Oh, nonsense. It really wouldn't have happened. Now, I'm a strong Obama supporter. I'm a strong Democrat. But on this one, I think he's taken it too far. And here's what I think is the real problem, Dave and listeners. In the president's morning briefing, every morning, the first thing he does, and all of those of us who get the president's schedule who are in the media, the first thing he does is the national security briefing, where you're surrounded by your national security advisor and somebody from the top of the military. And what I said to the guys afterwards, Mark and Chuck and Rick and all, was he needs to have a civil libertarian, a politico, somebody who's got a human face on the politics in that morning briefing, because his entire day and his entire work is framed by that national security briefing about what can we do to stop the bad guys. Well, if that's the only way you look at it, you're never going to protect America's rights.
I agree with you. I actually do agree with you on this one. And I also think that the perception right now is, I'm moving on to Russia for a minute,
right,
that the idea that he has canceled a meeting with Putin is going to be some sort of punitive measure against Russia for the Snowden asylum. But, maybe this all fits in nicely with the idea that Snowden is not necessarily a traitor, but not necessarily a patriot either. And rather than be too punitive, he's just letting Putin know in no uncertain terms that he's ticked off right now.
Well, and it lets Putin play out that he wants to shove it to America a little bit. It gives it to Putin also.
Yeah, I kind of wonder what's up with that. Do you think Putin is really wanting to go back to Cold War status with this country?
I think ever since Russia gave up all their little surrounding states, which aren't so little, it's 2/3 of their territory, they've had something to prove. And Putin wants to. I never did understand, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
From Gorbachev's point of view, why he gave all that up just because we said you should to be nice. I mean, I didn't understand what the Russians' reasoning, what the Soviets' reasoning was for giving up all their territory. So, yes, I think he feels like he has something to prove.
Well, and I guess we'll leave it there.
Okay.
By the way, you're going to be back with us on Thursday because you're going to be in Florida on Thursday.
Right, and you're going to have General McCaffrey and Dr. Barry Carlin talking about pain and also the national security issues you want to ask General McCaffrey.
I'll definitely be doing that. And when we talk about pain, we're actually talking about some a press conference that you're holding where in Winter Haven, is it?
Winter Park.
Winter Park
on the national crisis in. Well, we're switching subjects, listeners.
Just really quickly, but yeah.
In pain care, 116 million Americans have acute or chronic pain, and 6 million Floridians. You don't want to have pill mills. You don't want to have diversions. You don't want to have doctor deaths. But you've got to reach the people that need that health care.
Right. We'll be talking about that with him and with you on Thursday, so we're looking forward to that. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Dave, thanks so much for having me.
Okay, Bob. Bob Weiner calling us today from Virginia Beach, where it's coming up on 7:30 here on the Dave Elliott Show this morning.